Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. Today, we're going to be talking with Mike Alexander about IT solutions for your business. So just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone that is signed in is being muted with no video. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and you'll get to them at the very end when we do the Q&A portion. Also, if you would like, you can change your speaker view instead of gallery view at the top of your screen. It'll allow you to see us a little bit better as we're chatting through this presentation, but feel free to use whatever works best for you. So for those that haven't met me before, I'm Sharon, and I'm the interior design or owner of interior design studio here in Edmonton called Weaver Design. We're a full service interior design studio, and we offer services ranging from paint consultations, window coverings, to construction drawings and project management services. So I started doing these webinars back in May to help support local businesses in Edmonton. I really didn't know where this was going to go when I first started this, but the support has been amazing. So a big thank you to all of you that watch our webinars and to those that continue to share our posts and like us on social media. Thank you so much. So we've done a number of these webinars already. So we've covered so many different industries. We've had a real estate agent, an HR consultant, employment specialist. So we've really talked to so many different industries. If you're interested in watching any of our past webinars, you can head over to our website, weaverdesign.ca/webinar, where you can watch all the recordings. We also have them posted on our YouTube channel as well. So feel free to subscribe and you can stay updated on any future webinars that we have. So today we're featuring Mike, who is a managing partner at a local IT company called Shift Support. So welcome, Mike. Thank you for being our guest speaker today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Looks like a beautiful day out there today. So
it is. I'm sad I'm indoors. So I've known you for a very long time, but for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and how Shift Support got started?
Fair enough, yeah. My professional background is varied. I started in the IT world about 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Started kind of at the desktop level, helping. I actually worked at Edmonton Public School Boards, helping teachers and students work with computers and try and enabling people to use technology to the best it could be at the time. It's definitely evolved over the years that I've been in the technology world. I spent 5 years at an engineering firm. I've spent another 5 years kind of doing my own thing as a one-man show, and then spent another 5-6 years at a managed service provider. So managed service provider, what they do is at a larger scale, they work to support clients on a day-to-day basis with whatever needs they have. And then most recently, I've been working with Shift Support to again help clients with the needs that they have. But the focus that Shift has taken is what really attracted me to working with Shift is actually this client first approach, and that's what's really made them successful over the last 11 years is the need for companies who have not just kind of day-to-day needs, they have a larger amount of IT needs than generally typical. So that's generally in the professional services vertical. A lot of high pressure need for technology, whether that's engineering or accounting, medical, legal. They've had a large need for technology and can't really wait 4 to 6 hours to get something sorted out. So that's where Shift really has really come in and helped to focus on technology, that the technology solutions that are implemented by Shift are so rock solid that it's very rare for something to go wrong in such a way that actually impacts the business to the point where those professionals can't operate. And that's what's needed in this business vertical here.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of experience in working with different companies, and I think that's fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like you're pretty happy where you are now at Shift, and that they're a great company to work with and be a part of.
Hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Shift Support? I know they specialize in small businesses. Who would you say like is your ideal client with Shift Support, and what are some of the services that you guys offer?
For sure. Yeah. Like I was saying, our ideal client is an organization in the professional services vertical. So that's engineering, legal, accounting,
Mhm.
uh, kind of the high need, high technology. Definitely using technology as a way of pushing their business forward. They're not just using it as a tool on a day-to-day basis. It's actually what helps drive their business forward. And that's yeah, I'm gonna say that's the best way of explaining what Shift's kind of target market is. So,
Can be a hard question to answer.
oh, it's all good. What was the second part of it?
Just some of the services that you offer at Shift Support.
For sure, yeah, it's definitely similar to your standard managed services organization, from whether that's cloud hosting, desktop support, project services, procurement. But I think that the service that we provide is so much more than the services we provide. I think is the best way of explaining it. Like I said, it's that client first um, attitude where we're not trying to force businesses, these professional services organizations, into a mold that fits what we do. It's we're going to try and apply the best practices for technology around those businesses and try and help them and secure them and make sure that they're stable and safe moving forward.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk a little bit about COVID. So I know with COVID, I mean, a lot of businesses had to quickly adapt to all the closures that were happening back in March. We had a transition to a majority of staff now working from home, if not everyone. And I think we really quickly realized the importance of having that exceptional IT support to make that transition as smooth as possible. So business didn't have to necessarily slow down while that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a bit about that transition and what that means from like a security standpoint. I know the average person doesn't typically invest in making sure that their home network is secure. And we now have employees that are working from home and they're accessing the corporate network from their home computer.
Mm-hmm.
So are there concerns with employees now working from home, and what can employers do to still maintain that cybersecurity with their staff being at home?
Well, yeah, that is the question of the day. It has definitely been a challenge recently to transition from businesses that were traditionally work in the office to
Mhm.
the work from home environment. Businesses that had already adopted maybe a more flexible work from home environment made that transition a lot easier. But what people can do to help protect themselves, I think, is first education. Understand what's out there. There's a lot of some really good programs that can help with security and privacy awareness training, understanding even at a personal level, some of these new best practices that the world should really adopt is, not having the same passwords for Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram and your bank and items like that. The security and awareness training will definitely help your employees make that transition as safely as possible. From a business risk standpoint, going through that training, we've seen can really lower the amount of risk a business is taking on by having staff outside the office. In the traditional world, having everyone in one office was considered a little safer because from an IT standpoint, we could wrap everyone in bubble wrap, and we have firewalls and antivirus, and these are computers that we owned and could control and make sure that people weren't browsing places that they shouldn't. with working from home now, people are still connecting to these same resources and still trying to access the same files that they were doing, but they're doing it from a computer that IT hasn't vetted and hasn't had the opportunity to make sure is safe. That's where a lot of the resources that people should be accessing should be protected by multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. So
Yes.
that's generally really helped to mitigate a lot of the security risks that people are or could be exposed to.
Yeah, like
The
I
other
said, I think education is so important, right? And educating yourself, not just because you're accessing this corporate network now, but even just for your own protection as well.
Mhm.
Do you see this becoming the new norm with people working from home, or do you think as things are opening up again that these businesses are going to go back to the way that they were traditionally operating and having their employees back in the office?
I personally believe it's going to be it's going to happen on a business to business level. It'll depend on the leaders in the organization and what they see from their staff, whether they what is their perspective. I do believe there will be a large amount of organizations that have recognized that they can operate work from home. Their expenses could be a lot lower,
Mm-hmm.
and they will see the potential benefit of that. There will be an impact to corporate culture, and a lot of companies have spent a lot of time over the last 5-10 years which focusing on corporate culture to make sure that the places that when they're bringing people to these places are where people want to work, whether it's open office concepts or making sure it's bright and standing desks and all these perks, the investments that organizations have put in to make sure that the places people work are wonderful, but
Mm-hmm.
those expenses might not be needed in a work from home environment. And it'll be an interesting shift. I do believe that there'll be another set of organizations that, based on their leadership style, will actually still want people there, and they'll might want a little bit more of an in-person collaborative approach. I
Absolutely.
think it'll definitely depend on the corporate culture and the leadership team there.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely does depend on the business and your staff, right? Not everyone thrives working from home and doesn't, they're not as productive being at home. They get distracted easily, or they just need that social interaction. And like you said, culture is a big part of businesses, and you lose some of that when everyone's now just, meeting weekly on Zoom and having those chats and then spending the rest of the time being kind of isolated in their home office. And
Yeah,
how do you
the
still
water
maintain
cooler.
that relationship? Yeah.
How do you get that water cooler feeling back to going and get a coffee and
Yeah.
sitting and talking with someone? In the other businesses I've been in, it's the opportunity to get up and talk with someone and ask them, what are they working on today, has definitely exposed me to understand a lot more about what the people I'm working with are going through and working on. And I think we'll lose that if
Mm-hmm.
that just those opportunities to, hey, how are you doing today, or what are you working on, or how did that end up going? I'm doing trying to understand our coworkers and maybe understand a little bit more about what the business is going through is I think that will unfortunately fade with a work from home environment.
Mm-hmm. And whether or not that's a good thing, some people look at it as, well, by being at home, you are being more productive because you're not having that water cooler chat, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, or chatting in the lunchroom in the morning for, the first half hour of your day. But there is an importance to it as well, because you are building relationships. You're checking in with one another on what they're working on and helping each other out. So you lose something as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it'll be an interesting balance. I think the outcomes of COVID will be so far ranging. It will be. I'm not sure we'll fully understand them for years to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And people's mental health and how they're coping with now working from home,
Yeah.
if they still are. So tying in with the security question, I know in like recent months, there's been a lot of increase in the scams that are happening. We've all had those fake calls from CRA saying you owe them money, the free giveaway calls and emails, you want a cruise vacation or a new car. And recently I started hearing about one with COVID as well, where they call you and tell you that you've been in contact with someone with COVID, and they now want to send you this kit to your home so you can do your own testing. And so
Mhm.
they're trying to get your mailing address. They then tell you there's a fee associated with that. So now they need your credit card, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
those are certainly nothing that's new. We get those all the time, and businesses get them as well, not just personally. But we are seeing that happen a lot more often. Yeah, and businesses get these fake emails too, and they're trying to get you to click on that link or open that PDF document to then try and get you to pay them money, or so they can get access to your computer and now take on your data and then hold it at ransom or
Yep.
whatever it is. There's lots of creative ways that they're now doing it. Are you also seeing like an increase in like these viruses that are happening, these ransom type emails? Or is it kind of normal?
Yeah, to be honest, I personally believe this is normal, but
Okay.
I believe there's a lot higher awareness because of the world and COVID we're in. The amount of emails that uh, people are getting just because they're now relevant to what is going on in the world. This has impacted everyone, and because it's impacted everyone, these bad actors now have one common goal or one common thread they can use to try and target everyone. They don't have to try and say, hey, your TD MasterCard was compromised when I bank with RBC. Now they don't have to try and do as much research on the people that they're trying to target. They know that every single person, that if they have a valid email address or a valid phone number, they know that this person has been impacted by COVID, and that is has made things a lot easier for the criminals, and that is why it's gaining so much more attention.
Okay.
I'd highly recommend people educate yourself as much as you can. There's some phenomenal programs out there. The one that Shift Support has adopted it's called Know Before, and they're a phenomenal organization where they'll actually go through. They they have the staff in your organization do some testing to understand where everyone is at a baseline, and then you go through some education, and they'll actually send out some simulated phishing tests on a monthly or quarterly basis to see how your staff are handling. Did they actually learn from the videos or the education programs that
Yeah.
they went through, or were they just hitting next and listening to Spotify at the same time? Have people, are they still clicking on links or opening attachments, or have they learned and to begun to question and be maybe a little more critical of what they're receiving in email or even on the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. We're so quick just to like mindlessly click on that link, even though we've never heard of that person before, or it's a large sum of money that they're asking for that you don't typically get asked for things like that. We're like, yeah, no problem. Let me just check this out. So yeah, education is huge for that. I know you mentioned like phishing emails. Is that when you send out a fake email just to see if they're going to click on that link or that document?
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple different forms of phishing, or essentially the idea behind phishing is you're sending out an email with under a false pretense to try and understand or try and get someone to click on a link. Um, there is there's spear phishing, where someone will actually know quite a bit about, say, you. They'll say, Sharon, we know you live in Edmonton. We know um, you might have a dog. And because of that, we're going to impersonate the city of Edmonton bylaw to say, we're going to be targeting you and sending a fake email that says, hey, you have been assessed a bylaw ticket and are going to be charged a fine because of X number of infractions related to having pets. Um, that is when they're starting to use information that they know about you to target you directly. That's called spear phishing. There's something called whaling, where they'll actually specifically target CEOs, CFOs, kind of the C-suite, with fake information that they can, or sometimes even real information they can find out about the CEOs on their organization's website, and use that information to target those CEOs or CFOs to get large sums of money moved through or transactions approved. So the one that still comes to mind, a lot of people can relate to, is the University Grant McEwen hack or attack that occurred when they were targeted by someone who was spearphishing and whaling at the same time, trying to get the organization to send a large amount of money over to themselves instead of a general contractor. So circling back, yes, phishing is the act of sending a fake email out to a large number of people generally, and just hoping that someone will click on a link and do what the bad actors are looking for, whether that's entering credentials, downloading a link and getting ransomware. It can be quite varied.
Yeah, it's not just the small businesses, the big guys are getting targeted as well, right? So everyone needs to be watchful of those things. And is there other things that you can do, maybe as an employee, of what to look for? Is there a way to kind of click on that PDF to see where it's coming from, or get that URL where it's like, okay, something's a little bit off, or if something is suspicious, so they just send it off to like their IT professionals like you guys and just like, hey, this looks a little bit funny. Should I open this? What's the best way for them to deal with those emails?
I'd highly recommend talking with your technology partner, trying to understand, get their feedback on whether this is a legitimate email or not. There are some websites where you can actually upload the attachments and understand, and they'll actually do virus scans on it and things like that. The problem with those websites is a lot of these attacks aren't viruses. They've migrated from trying to destroy data or hold it ransom. They still do hold it ransom sometimes, but they're actually just trying to get information, data about people. The amount of money that they can get from a personal record, or I think I read recently it was $110 somewhere on the dark web. It was $110 for information about you. So your first name and last name, your phone number, your address, and one other piece of information, and whether it was a credit card number, expiry date, CVV, something along those lines. Someone can go and sell that on the dark web and make $110 just like that.
Crazy.
It is crazy. So yeah, it's the things we can do to mitigate that risk is keep an eye on your credit card receipts. I actually had one very recently where I had a credit card that I had recently applied for, and I had received it, but I hadn't seen it yet. It had been 4 months I received it, but I hadn't been out and about in the world because of COVID. So it had sat in a desk drawer, and I got a call from my bank saying, "Mike, I think this is a fraud charge." And I said, "Well, I don't understand how that's possible." But it turned out someone had managed to guess the credit card number, the expiry date, the CVV, my address, and they have my name somewhere out there in the database. And they were able to run through 4 or 5 charges, and were actually declined for another 15 more before they started getting the right number of, or the right combination of expiry and CVV to actually go through with the transaction. So constant vigilance, reviewing your credit card statements, looking at things with a critical eye. If you're not expecting an invoice from a supplier or a vendor, or you're not expecting a resume from someone that just shows up in your inbox, don't click on it. Don't call the number in the signature. A lot of times these bad actors will actually replace the number in the signature with their own number. So you might call that person saying, "Hey, I saw you sent me an invoice. I'm not sure what this is for." And you might actually end up talking with the person, the bad actor that is trying to get you to open that invoice or send that money. Sorry. So it's constant vigilance. Be critical about what you're seeing. Use known good information, whether that's accessing the company's website to verify what phone number you should be calling. Those are just some of the things that, again, would come with a really solid security and privacy awareness training program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's terrifying about the credit card, especially when it happens to someone like you who's doing their due diligence and, has
Yeah.
the security systems in place. And is there
Yeah.
things that we should be doing to kind of limit or reduce our digital footprint so like that information isn't so easily retrieved by the bad guys?
I'm not sure about. I'm not sure you can limit your digital footprint in this day and age unless you're going to be a complete recluse and
Yeah.
you're off the grid. I think constantly reviewing and making a habit of reviewing your credit reports. Personally, I'll throw out a plug that I'm not sponsored by them in any way, but Credit Karma is phenomenal for monitoring your credit and getting routine credit reports or information about it.
Okay.
Personally, after that credit card incident happened with me, I went through. There was an old loan I had from 10 years ago, a leased car that I had returned, but the loan was still open. So if someone ever got that information, they might have been able to open or accumulate or add a new loan to that existing account. So I went through and cleaned all those out, and I had a credit card from when I was 17, and it was only $500, but I got it trimmed out, and it's just about reducing your risk footprint and just trying to make sure that constantly reviewing, reducing what information is out there. Highly recommend not posting on Facebook when you're on vacation or items like that, because if your
What?
Facebook profile is open to the public, people can actually determine where you are. They can look in the background of your photos to determine where your house is. Um, Definitely put on my tinfoil hat here, but it is real. It has happened, and there's a lot of some really good things. Again, I'll point back to Know Before in their training programs, that it's phenomenal information to go through and educate yourself on. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for those tips. The Facebook one will be hard, but
It's a challenge. I think a lot of people struggle with is the Instagram one as well, because they feel like the community there and trying to share photos of what they're up to. But one thing that a friend of mine has done is still sharing those photos, but kind of have them time lagged maybe a week or two, or
yeah.
embrace the Throwback Thursday a little bit more than you would if you take a photo on Saturday when you're out camping. Don't post it the next Monday or when you go into service. Post it when you're back in service and back home. And
Yeah, I think we don't realize how much information we're giving away just by sharing photos, and we're saying the places you like to travel to, who
mm-hmm.
your friends are, do you have any pets, are you married? Like all of that information goes out with those photos, and they can then use that against you. So
Data is the new digital currency that
yeah.
is taking over the world, and the amount of data on you yourself every time you engage with LinkedIn or Facebook, it is staggering, absolutely
Mhm.
staggering.
Yeah, that could be a full webinar just on that.
Yeah.
So we'll stop it there.
Yeah, fair enough.
So unfortunately, when it comes to IT services, I know a lot of small businesses uh, don't really make IT a priority. They don't budget for it properly. It's not a part of their monthly operational costs. So they end up being very reactive to technical problems instead of having systems in place to prevent those things from happening. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you take the time and the money to invest in things properly, like IT, your business can operate a lot more efficiently. Um, it can be a lot more costly when you start to just react to problems instead of planning for those things that can come up. Happens with design as well. It's going to be more costly to fix those things after the fact. So what are some of the big IT challenges that you guys have at Shift Support, and what advice do you have for these businesses to prevent those things from happening?
Uh, Honestly, I believe the biggest challenge from a technology standpoint when your technology partner engages with the business is actually having having a seat at the table, being a trusted partner, a confidant, someone that can actually sit at the executive meeting to say, hey, you're looking to implement this program, or you're trying to change address these issues. Here are some technology solutions we can do, rather than trying to build new business processes around a problem that technology could help with. That I think a lot of businesses are still struggling to find where technology can fit, and they don't. Their first thought isn't, how can Mike do, or I wonder if Mike can help me with this. Their first thought is, we should build a new process, or we need to hire more people. Um, I think there was a study probably 3 years ago done where in accounting companies, if they could add another monitor, whether these were 24-inch basic monitors, $200, the efficiency gains that this accounting firm got out of adding dual monitors, I think it was somewhere in the 80% range. Just by adding another monitor, they were able to get another 80% of that out of their staff, and didn't need to hire additional staff that would have needed to be hired to handle the additional load. So my biggest suggestion is engage with your IT professional, ask questions. If there's an opportunity for that partner or that organization to engage with your business at a deeper level, let that happen. Trying to keep IT on the outside so you reduce hourly fees will probably end up incurring more fees in the end. Just like I think it was Keith at Crown Automation was saying that you guys were talking about getting involved sooner in the process, and being involved sooner in the development and design process. It's just like in IT. If you're looking at a new building, talk with your IT professional now, so that they can be a part of the process to make sure you actually have fiber internet at that new office, rather than having to get it cored in through concrete and all these additional fees. I think having adopting a technology first attitude will definitely help a lot of businesses in the next 10 years to handle the challenges that we're gonna have coming up here, whether that's working through COVID, adjusting to civil unrest, and a lot of the things we're seeing in a lot of countries across the world. These businesses need to stay nimble, and need to stay looking around to make sure they understand exactly what's going on, and maybe some guesswork at what's going to come into the future, or come from the future, and what are they going to do to handle it. I know a lot of businesses right now are going to be working on their business continuity plans, because they were in no way whatsoever prepared for a work from home environment.
No.
And if this happens again, and it sounds like it might be October where things kick up again, I think a lot of businesses are going to be a lot more prepared than they were before.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good that we're all set up for it now. And going back to how things are going to look in the future for businesses. And I think one plus is that now they've made the shift to working from home, and it's an option, or a lot more flexibility for their staff in that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for answering all those questions and all your great tips. I don't see any questions in the chat group yet. So if you have anything that you would like to ask Mike about, feel free to put that in the chat group. But I'll ask you a question, Mike.
Sure.
Going back to protecting yourself as an IT company, how do you protect yourself, and in turn protecting your clients? Because I'd imagine that as an IT company, you're a bit of a target, because if they access you guys, they now access all of your clients. So how
100%.
do you keep yourself safe?
For sure. Yeah, no, it was actually an attack that started within the last year and a half, 2 years, where these people have recognized the same thing that you just said. The managed service providers hold the keys to the castle, and if their infrastructure is impacted, all their clients are impacted. For us, we have a pretty simple philosophy. It's multi-factor authentication for everything. Everything. There are some tools I actually have to enter my username and password and multi-factor code, different layers, just to access our automation tools, to make sure that everything is safe and secure. We do monthly auditing to make sure no additional user accounts are created. We have alerting to make sure the exact same thing is not happening. No user accounts are created. Again, it's just layers and layers and layers. Have you ever seen the movie Shrek?
Yes.
Where he talks about the onion, and
Yeah.
imagine security is kind of like the onion. You just got to layer and layer and layer and layer, and that's your best way of making sure that your organization stays safe. And it's the same thing for us. We have lots of layers. We have lots of isolation. So if someone doesn't need access to a system, it isn't part of their job function, they don't have access to it. It's not needed. So if for some reason my account was compromised or something happened, they guessed it magically, that all of our clients wouldn't be impacted. It's just, again, it's the philosophy of least privilege. If you don't need access to it, you shouldn't have access to it.
Okay. And how can people contact you, Mike?
Sure. It's Mike at shift.support. So that's probably the easiest. Shoot me an email. We can arrange a time to have one of these virtual meetings and understand more about your business and what we can do to help.
Okay, awesome. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions from anyone in the group here, so I guess we're good for that. Yeah, so this webinar was being recorded, so I'll be sending out a copy to anyone that has registered for this today, along with our contact information. So I'll pass on your email, Mike. Yeah, so feel free to share that out on your social media, pass it on to anyone that you know that might be interested in this conversation on IT and just couldn't be a part of it today with us. And like I said, we're going to be doing a lot more of these webinars. We have some really good people lined up. Next week, we'll be chatting with Stacy about her bookkeeping company. We also have Advanced Entertainment and Kite Electric and lots of other ones. So again, just check back on our website, weaverdesign.ca/webinar, and you can stay updated on all the new ones coming up. We originally planned to do these every 3 weeks, but it's becoming every Wednesday now, so that's fantastic. Thank you to all of you that have taken interest in this. If you want to do a webinar with us, just let myself know. I'd love to hear from you for that. So thank you everyone that's joined us and for taking some time out of your lunch break. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, everyone, have a great day.